you, Chair, and good morning, Minister. I suppose just to follow up a little bit on the optional protocol as well, because it is an issue that comes up here regularly and an issue of concern in the committee. You state in your speech that you're, until the obligation set out with can be complied with. I mean, are we ever going to be in a position where we'll be fully compliant with the UNCRPD? I mean, the UNCRPD is an international agreement itself, and we entered into this and we're not meeting the terms of that agreement as yet. I know there's work ongoing, but we are seen as somewhat of a laggard in Europe in relation to how we treat people with disabilities. And I'm just wondering, I mean, you know, the first state report to the UNCRPD committee was produced in November of 2021, and I know there's delays at EU level, or UN level, sorry. Are we any indication when Ireland will be up before the committee on that? Like, it's a year and 3 months now since that. And I just wonder what mechanisms are available for disabled people at the moment, and do you think that they are that disabled people can take if their needs are not being met within Ireland, and that people are aware of the procedures as well, because some of them can be quite complex. You mentioned the transfer of powers, and I know a date has been given now, which I do welcome, and I'm just wondering, like, I mean, is everything that is definitely going ahead on the 1st of March, and I presume a significant budget will be transferring to your department from the Department of Health, and I mean, that's probably going to be awkward. I presume that's all being worked out. But one of the things, again, that regularly come up, and you are a Minister for Children also, is children's services and the delays in assessment of need and the delays in provision of services. And a lot of parents feel they've no recourse but to take a case to the courts if assessment of need is not carried out within the time frame. But it's not a statutory obligation to provide services to a child once an assessment has been carried out. And I just feel that children are actually regressing in many cases because they're not getting the services that they desire. So have you any plan, as both Minister for Children and Minister for Disability, in addressing what are to me, very urgent matters? There are some long-term things that need to be taken around planning for the workforce and retention issues, but even something just to deal with children who are in the system currently and are not having their needs met. And just on, you're saying you're working on a successor strategy to the National Disability Inclusion Strategy. It ran out at the end of 2022, so currently we are working in a vacuum. I presume there's no strategy there. So how soon will a strategy be put in place? And I mean, should that not have been something that should have been worked on and be ready to seamlessly flow from the end of 2022 as well? Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, thank you, Chair. We've no indication of when we'll have our hearing before the UN committee. It is significantly delayed at UN level. It could well be I'd assumed it would be this year, but it could well be 2024, and that is, I suppose, I would certainly, as Minister, I would certainly find it useful to have gone through that process, because I've done it for the Human Rights Committee. Actually, next week I'll be doing it for the Committee on the Rights of the Child, going to Geneva, going through that process, hearing from the experts, I suppose defending the state on some things, but accepting and hearing for where their, I suppose, view on where the state could do more. And I think it would have been really useful on the UNCRPD to get that report. So look, that's kind of out of our hands as a country. In terms of, you made the point that the option of the individual complaint isn't open to disabled persons, so you were talking about remedies, and obviously remedies are available in terms of the courts, and you spoke about that in terms of that is not the preference, and it is not good practice that so many individuals have felt they needed to go to the courts to secure remedies for their own rights, or particularly for the rights of a child with disabilities, and I fully recognise that. Obviously, we also have the Equality Acts as well, which provide remedies for persons with disabilities, and as you know, my department are reviewing the Equality Acts at the moment. In terms of children's disability services, I suppose, first of all, Until the 1st of March, I won't be fully responsible for those. So I'm speaking not in a vacuum, but I suppose I'm not the minister in charge at the moment. Myself and Minister Abbott are looking forward to that responsibility coming over. We're very cognizant of the real pressure that the lack of provision of services is placing on children and placing on their parents all over the country. And I know the challenges are worse in some parts of the country than others, but they are all over the country. And there is, and you referred to it, there is significant issues with workforce planning and the lack of availability of therapists. The HSE are currently working on the PDS roadmap, Progressing Disability Services roadmap, and that is a document setting out, I suppose, immediate and then longer term actions that the HSE is seeking to undertake to support the community disability network teams, to make sure we can increase the number of staff across those, to make sure we can retain those staff who are currently there, and then looking more long term, ensuring that we're actually training more OTs, more speech and language therapists, more psychologists. Because when you look at, and you're probably well aware of the capacity review stretching out to 2032, that it makes it very clear that the needs, particularly for specialists and therapists to deal with children's disability services, those needs are going to grow over the next number of years. We don't have enough, we're not training enough specialists in this area at the moment, and we need to do more, and we need to be putting in place those university courses now. We need to be looking at maybe conversion courses and the like, everything that we can do to broaden the pool of therapists who are available to the CDNTs across the country. There are a range of other issues, and they'll be set out within the roadmap. And I suppose in the time, and I suppose by the time the transfer, it'll probably be at max maybe 18, 20 months that I'll remain as Minister for Disability before the next general election. But that is going to be an absolute priority for me, looking to get individuals back into the CDNTs, because I think that is the way we can make the most immediate impact on the lives of children and on the lives of their parents as well. In terms of the new strategy, significant work has taken place over the last year to enable the new strategy come in, and that work would have actually taken place with the steering group of the existing strategy. So they would have seen a number of presentations, and a number of consultations would have been undertaken in terms of the new strategy. So there'll be significant consultations taking place in January and in Q1 of this year. So my department and the National Disability Authority, they'll be co-hosting a consultation exercise on the 31st of January, and then in Q1 and Q2 of this year, there'll be extensive engagement with DPOs, with service users, with civil society in terms of the new strategy. I don't know, maybe at some point the committee, we might talk about your views on what the new strategy should look like, but I think the last strategy had a very significant number of action points, and just my experience, because I share the traveller and Roma integration strategy, the women and girls strategy, the migrant integration strategy, and the LGBTI plus strategy. And I just feel fewer actions and more deliverables is preferable, because sometimes when you have 120, 130 actions, departments can kind of maybe cherry pick, or there can be not the focus maybe on the core. So that would be my approach. But look, that's just my own view, because from my own experience from some of the other strategies. But the goal is that the new strategy will be ready by the end of this year, and ready to apply from the start of 2024.